Welcome to the Internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, Connor Dunstan, and these are my co-hosts,
Kyle Holland and
Alex Fielder. Today we have a guest. So say hi, guest.
Hi, guest. You
joke.
put me up for that.
This joke
Yeah,
never gets
yeah.
old.
it's basically required.
Curtis Haring, Executive Director of UTRU.
Returning as our second-time guest for the first time.
Do I get a jacket or something?
I feel
I know that SNL does like a 5-timers club.
I mean, we are making shirts, theoretically, so you'll get one of those.
I'll take a shirt.
Great.
So today it's just going to be kind of a local update episode is tentatively what I'm calling it. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on Utah transportation right now.
Several.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Curtis reached out to us and said he wanted to talk about it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So gondolas, a new Katy Freeway, and boatloads of BRT. All this after the news.
After more than 2 decades of planning and development, the Central Subway has finally entered full-time service in San Francisco as of January 9th. The new subway section, which cost nearly $1.9 billion, will carry trains from Muni's T-Line and offer connections to the existing Market Street subway and the BART and Muni trains that run therein. Although it was expensive, running, basically $1 billion a mile, the Central Subway represents a substantial step forward for transit in San Francisco, and its opening is to be applauded, even if they did have to use plastic cups to stop erosion. Briefly. So, I don't know, did you guys see that on Twitter?
About the plastic cups? No, I didn't.
I have not.
I did not either.
No, that's too bad. It was pretty funny because they're just like these literal red Solo cups in like the drainage holes in the wall. And it's like, we sure spent $1.9 billion well here, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, those aren't the cheap cups. We'll just be honest here.
Oh, good, as long as they're name brand.
Yeah, name brand cups. This has been the news. Okay,
Hot button issue time?
Hot button issue time. So, as we discussed before the news break, today is the local update day. We're going to talk about all the weird crap that's been going on here in Utah. So, number one, and obviously Alex's favorite, is the Little Cottonwood Canyon Gondola project.
Oh, just the best.
Because UDOT, the Utah Department of Transportation, has decided that it is time to expand and improve and spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the canyon road that goes to 2 ski resorts.
Hey, and a very small town.
There's a small town at the end.
And a very small town. So what they would like to build is an 8.8 mile long gondola system, which will be the longest and most ambitious in the world to go up the canyon to the ski resorts.
Mm-hmm.
I had trouble finding what is the current longest gondola in the world, but the longest I could find is a 3.1 mile span in Idaho, so
I imagine it's France somewhere.
It's probably in France somewhere.
Yeah, normally you use gondolas and aerial tramways and chairlifts and stuff over short distances of exceptionally difficult terrain, say up a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
You don't usually use them to go a long distance relatively flat. So this is a bit unusual.
But, and here's the big thing that I think that you're forgetting. Gondola look pretty on photo.
Right.
And I go ski, and I want to see the gondola and know what's going on. Never mind the fact that it doesn't integrate into our current transportation system.
At all. Well, they'll run more buses, apparently, to the park and rides.
Right, exactly. This is one of the few occasions where I will, with full throat, say we should probably just expand a road and have more bus lanes.
I would say don't expand the road and just run buses on the current
Well, if
road.
we could do that, that'd be great. But I mean, the practical reality is, yes, you will need to have cars to get up and down the trail. There will be people that choose to drive.
Well, yeah, but they're doing a tolling system anyways. So
True.
you should be able to limit quantities.
Exactly, which is great. But I would be surprised, and by surprised I mean not at all surprised, that in, I would say 3 years after the first gondola goes up, we will hear about a scandal where basically UDOT got some payoff money from, and I'm not saying it's that quite nefarious, but I bet there was definitely going to be some backroom deals between the ski resorts that specifically wanted this thing.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's been no corruption in the Utah
There's
legislature
never been
ever.
corruption.
Oh, okay.
UTA, for its part, I'm surprised for the first time ever, doesn't want to expand roads and do what it needs to do there. Or UDOT, excuse me. This is purely...
They don't want to expand the canyon road.
Right.
We'll get to all the other bits and
that's
pieces in a bit
right.
later.
That's true. You got me there. But I mean, that's honestly, I think that's what this really boils down to is the gondola looks nice. We want Ski Utah to be everywhere. And you see all the photos of like tracks pulling up to Temple Square, for example, or going down Scenic Main. This is the same idea pushing this. It's, of course, not a good system. It doesn't integrate into what UTA could offer if they actually did their ski circuits like that. Yeah, details. But it's just on its face a bad idea. It is not scalable. It is not... You cannot add stops. You can't subtract stops easily from a gondola station.
All you can really do is extend the entire system using linear transfers, because they're already planning on having a linear transfer to get to Alta from Snowbird.
Right.
You're kidding.
No. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, I think, and it's the pie-in-the-sky idea, but I'm sure that there are ideas to just have gondolas running between all of the resorts on both sides.
I mean, it could be cool to extend it from Alta to Solitude and Brighton to Park City.
I mean, that'd be cool, sure.
But
Is it the most practical?
No, I think Front Runner to Park City or Front Runner to Kimball Junction is where it's at.
Hey, let's no.
That's not possible.
No.
Oh, right.
But I mean, that's ultimately the thing is that it doesn't integrate well with the current system at all. Yes, we have more bus routes to park and rides, but not actually going up the canyon and doing what it's supposed to do. And it's just not scalable. Your bus gets full, guess what? You get another bus. Your gondolas get full, you only have a limited amount that you can, really put on there at any given moment.
Yeah, I'm actually quite impressed by how few gondolas this thing's supposed to do. It's supposed to be doing one every 2 minutes, which is not that much.
And if you think about it, 1 every 2 minutes. I mean, I don't know the capacity.
Supposedly 35.
35.
You can fit like 100 people on one of the new ski buses. Trust me, I've been there.
Yeah.
You should probably do like 50. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... I really think that this is the real push behind this is tourism and not practicality.
Both tourism and UDOT's also like slipping something in their own back pocket with road expansions, because out of the $550 million sticker price of the Gondola Alternative B project, guess how much of that is dedicated to road expansions, parking structure construction, snow sheds, and other car things?
Boy, howdy, I'd say about 80%. Is that optimistic?
It's actually not. It's only $200 million out of the $550 million.
Only $200 million.
So 35%.
Yeah,
ish.
so.
Oh, well, good on you. No, you know what? I'm going to take it all back. I have seen the errors of my ways. UDOT, you do you, boo, and
More parking,
more
roads,
parking, yes.
more parking, more roads. Build the snow sheds, build the snow sheds.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that stood out to me is just the amount of linear transfers they're planning to do, because from the, I can't say this, Lacaille base, and I should know this, I speak French, but the Lacaille base, they're planning to run a shuttle from the main parking structure to the actual gondola.
Yeah, and then you get on the gondola.
And then you get on the gondola.
Then you go to Snowbird.
You go to Snowbird.
Then you
get
get
on
out.
another one, and you go. Like, that's like
you get on the thing.
2 transfers to go.
See, I don't get why they wouldn't just
one way.
detach the gondola from the Snowbird leg and reattach it to the Alta leg's haul
Because
cable.
then if you have trouble unloading someone, you have to stop the entire thing.
Now, didn't you guys do an episode on the great things of multimodal transfers? Like, you guys were all about this a few episodes ago.
We
where
just
you're like,
love
it's
it.
great where we can have 2 lines come together, and if we can have another one come along, I think you guys are backtracking at this
Right
point.
angle good. Straight angle bad.
Right angle.
Right angle good. Ah,
Even
okay. I
like
see,
45 diagonals are good, but like
Okay.
you don't want to do straight. You want to if you're going one direction, you only have to go
Okay.
one direction.
Fine.
So this is
I
like
thought I had a
the
gotcha moment there, but I guess I didn't.
This is like the battery light rail train from last week's news, where you take your commuter train, then take a linear transfer to a battery-powered LRV, which runs in the commuter rail corridor to go an additional 2 miles.
SEPTA.
I mean,
SEPTA.
you know what? Points for ingenuity. I guess that's what I'll say on that one.
You know what? I think that instead of doing the King of Prussia Norristown High-Speed Rail extension, they should just take it there instead.
No, I mean, ultimately, it's going to be a boondoggle. It's going to be... It's going to look nice on brochures. And that is the point of it. The ski resorts love this idea, which is why they got
because they can bring more people to the ski resort.
Directly to their ski resort.
Well,
right?
don't they even have like an AstroTurfed advocacy organization like Gondola
Probably.
Works or
Yeah,
something?
it's something.
Yeah,
Gondola
that's
Works,
it.
Yeah. And it's and frankly, I don't blame the ski resorts. I mean, that's their prerogative. They want to make money, and they want people just to barf out in front of their in front of their lodge.
In my opinion, I think the ski resorts should pitch in, because if we're going to build a gondola to snowboard and Alta, in an ideal world, it would be constructed, owned, and operated by a ski resort coalition. And
I wouldn't object to that nearly as much.
Then UTA can run buses to the base.
Yeah.
UDOT can screw around with the roads, whatever.
And everybody's happy, except for the ski resorts that had to pay for it. But no, I absolutely agree. If the ski resorts truly want this thing, which they do,
then
they've got the money.
$350 million.
Yep.
Alta's just putting in a brand new 6-seater lift up their easiest hill. So I'm sure they could piece together some spare pocket change for this.
Yeah, I heard that I think it's the town of Alta is now issuing parking tickets that cost more than lift tickets.
Oh, jeez.
So,
because they're on a parking crunch up there, because it turns out cars are probably about the literal single worst way to get a bunch of people along the same route to the same destination.
All at the same time.
wait, really?
Yeah, all at the same time. Did not see this one coming.
That's crazy.
What's most interesting to me is that they're not even planning to make this thing cheap. It's going to be $25-$30 a pop.
Well, I think they're going to try and completely cover all operating and maintenance costs, which is not unreasonable.
Is fine.
That's fine.
But
compared to the $5 ski bus.
Yeah.
What if they stop running the ski bus? How are those of us who
They probably will stop running the ski bus.
Yeah.
So
Guess
I'm
what?
just
You don't
expected to pony up $30 to go up the hill now?
No one ever said skiing was cheap.
Well, it's
The
already
icon-
expensive.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
I blew an entire paycheck on my pass for this year.
That's the thing, though.
And if you get your hands on a ski season pass, you don't want to be paying an extra $30+ per trip on top of that.
But
I'm already bringing a
Especially
sandwich,
when
so I don't have to pay for the
we're trying to
food.
be taking the gondola.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean this is a Lexus sort of thing, a Lexus gondola that is designed so that the poles don't need to mix with the poles.
Of course, it's public transit for the rich.
Yes, so it's fine. We don't mind it then.
It goes in the air.
It flies above them. I can
Guess
literally
I'll just-
have my nose above
I
them.
think I'm just going to stick to Soulbright, honestly.
Fair.
But it's the reality. It's not a good project.
The amount of money being spent on road crap is high.
So my preferred alternative, obviously, is for UDOT to take the non-Cowards route and replace the road with a cog train and do...
Not build a separate cog train and do a crap ton of destruction. Just put it where the road is.
Yeah,
just straight up rip it
the
up.
Swiss
Yes.
are
Alright.
not the Swiss are not cowards. They have all sorts of ski resorts and things that are only accessible by
True.
train.
Right.
So I don't see why we're being, little babies and we gotta have a separate
And
thing.
cog rail is an objectively technologically superior way of moving heavy equipment
Yeah.
to the resort.
And frankly, just a whole hell of a lot safer too. Right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting proposal. It won't happen, obviously.
Obviously.
Because
You could also through run onto tracks with trains.
yeah,
that could,
exactly. And
If you
I
wanted
mean,
to.
Yeah.
yeah, if you wanted to, I suppose you could run it all the way down to what is that, 72-ish? So
I think it'd be
more
nice if you could run it up to
downtown
the
if you
university.
I guess you could run it up.
And then
to
you can
the
take the university
Hey!
line to downtown.
Why not both? Let's do both. if we're just, I mean, we could run one way, run the other way. It'd be great. No, I mean, for all the hemming and hawing of UTA going to Switzerland years ago and trying to find superior rail systems that we could implement here, we sure haven't done a whole lot with that.
Dude, all we need is do a REM. Do spot grade separations, only where you need them, and do automated train control.
Tunnels.
I mean, yeah, let's get some tunnels up here.
We gotta have.
Let's get some tunnels up
Kyle,
in
the
this.
trouble with replicating the REM here is that we'd have to have tunnels.
Which apparently is a foreign technology to you, Dad.
Well, the reason I say that is because as we're discussing recently, the only thing in the United States, if you really want to quadruple or quintuple the cost of your rail project, you can put in a half-mile stretch of tunnel, and you'll do it.
But, we can't do grade separations.
It's too expensive. It costs money.
Oh, sorry,
But
investing
capital
in
money's free.
capital money is kind of free.
Yeah.
To a degree, that's true.
Especially if you're building a BRT.
But if we're spending money on rails, we can't build roads. And roads are our lifeblood. There's no alternative whatsoever.
Before we transition to our next topic, where I think we should build a gondola?
Where should we build a gondola?
Snow Basin Resort in Ogden. Because if you look on the map
Yeah,
here,
it's kind of
the road route, you got to take this big, long 15-mile hook all the way around. I'm told it's pretty dangerous.
It can be. I've driven that road.
Or you could put a gondola base station at Weber State, use their existing parking, and go about 3.5 miles straight up to Snow Basin.
I could get on board with that.
You go straight to the top of the mountain and ski down.
That makes sense.
Literal game changer for transportation, not just, money.
I could, I could sign up for that.
Less than half the length.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No transfers.
No transfers.
You can even take the OGX from a front runner.
Oh my goodness!
Which is apparently so great.
I mean, actually, I could see that. That would be actually a very awesome idea.
You should pitch that to Snow Basin, Kyle.
I should pitch that.
Have them pay for it. I mean, we already know how much 8 miles cost, so we'll cut it in what's 3 divided by 8 times?
Anyways.
But the point is, if a middle of nowhere resort in Idaho can afford a 3.1 mile gondola, then
Let's make it happen. Weber State.
Yeah.
Classes in the morning, skiing in the afternoon.
Those students
they would
be
make
the
so
luckiest
much money off
on
those
the planet.
students.
That's what they pitch up here.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how they could attract international student attention. So anyway, Weber State.
Oh man. Who's the reps up there? I'm sure we can get some lawmakers onto that one. And
I think that's a much, much better project.
I would agree.
Now we get to the really fun one.
Speaking of spending transit money on road things, let's talk about bus rapid transit.
Which one? Are you wanting to talk about the Mid-Valley Connector here or OGX? Because both of those are road widening projects disguised as BRT.
Let's start with OGX because that's the more well-known one.
Okay. I
It's
sure
supposed
wish
to
the
be-
whole thing was dedicated lanes, and
That
that's
would be
about all I can
nice.
say about it.
Yeah.
Basically, starting from the Ogden station, winding its way winding its way east, then south, then east, then south again, all the way up to Weber State.
1.5 miles of dedicated lanes at a total cost of $130 million, putting the dedicated guideway per mile cost somewhere
Very high.
around $80 million a mile.
Pretty impressive. What was it for UVX? Do you know that one off the top of your head?
UVX was also about
Right up there.
$180 million.
But they had more
For 10
dedicated lanes.
miles.
Right.
Which
Almost fully dedicated lanes.
I mean, so the practicality is that one. I mean, it was a similar urban landscape, right?
yeah.
Similar road structure. Also, that one does originate from a front runner station.
Yeah, and
And ends at a
and
a
ends at a
different
front
one.
runner station. That's true. So very similar, and that very much more expensive for reasons that do baffle me to this point. I mean, it was a road project hidden as a BRT project, right? And I mean, Ogden's been hurting as far as using traditional transportation. Their network is old. Their road network is old, and so. It makes sense that they are trying to expand these networks. Harrison Boulevard, the main kind of thoroughfare up by Weber State, that road is constantly packed. And so, yes, although it is great that we are trying to address a rapid transit system up there, I always have very mixed feelings about BRTs. But at the same time, if the BRT is just a way to mask more induced demand that will inevitably come from this, then it is a bad project. And I do think that is what this is going to be. If the BRT were to have the audacity to continue south, run along towards, say, Hill Air Force Base and connect into Layton, then you might actually have something.
Crazy.
And if the BRT actually connected with the Ogden Regional Airport, then I would start to believe that this actually was a transit project designed to get people off the road and make it more accessible to others. That is not what we're dealing with. Yes, there's a lot of people that I am sure take the train to go up to Weber State in order to study or work or whatever, and that's great. This hopefully will help them. But so much more could have been done if we just were being honest about what this project was supposed to be.
See, because at least Provo has the airport connection, and they've got the dual front-runner stations.
This is juicy news from UTA from an insider, i.e. me. Timpanogos Operating Unit, that's the people who operate the buses in Utah County, are considering rerouting the East Bay Loop, which is like the weird southern half extension of the UVX, to the airport. Because,
that makes a lot of
it's getting
sense.
A whole ton of commercial service in the near future.
And you want to have a service to go to the places.
And no offense to the wonderful bus 833, but it's not.
It's not the same.
Bus. Yeah.
No, it's not the same. And I mean, having those regional connections are important for, shocker, the economy of those areas, right? Transit can drive economies.
No, only car make economy go big.
Okay,
more parking equals more economy.
No,
parking
but car stay. Car take up space. Me put business where car could be. Business, money.
This is a crazy concept. You should pitch
I
it.
know. These are revolutionary ideas that have always existed. But no, I mean, that's the thing is we talk about these BRT programs and the expansion either Mid-Valley, we can talk about Ogden, we can talk about what's going up in Park City too, basically connecting Kimball Junction with Park City. And all of these projects have never started off with, hey, let's improve transit. All of these projects have started off with, there's too much traffic, we want to expand the road. And then someone raises their hand and says,
hey, we can get federal government money if we brand it as a BRT project.
Exactly. And it doesn't hurt that the Biden administration has put out this massive spending bill, which, I support. I think it's a good idea to expand transit. However, departments of transportation, up to and including the Utah Department of Transportation, know how to work the system to make that happen.
They've been doing it their entire existence.
And now they have an extra pot of money that they can take advantage of.
I mean, they even, to a somewhat lesser extent, were able to do this with the original several tracks lines. Because if you look at 4th South in Salt Lake City today, that is a UDOT surface highway that just happens to have a tracks line running down the middle of it.
And you can see the scars of road widening and the curb-tight sidewalks.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. No, it's terrible. But I mean, this has been... I really hate that we call them the Utah Department of Transportation, because we really should be calling them the Utah Department of Roads. At least they're being honest when they're doing that.
I think it used to be called something like that, or with highways, but they changed it.
Yeah,
because
no,
they're
exactly.
Cool and hip.
It's like how it used to be called the Department of War instead of the Department of Defense.
Which is effectively way cool.
Yeah, I work for the Department of War. But it's the same idea, right? Is UDOT knows how to finagle, as well as the 49 other states, know how to finagle the system to tell the Federal Department of Transportation, oh yeah, we've got this great mass transit project that also requires us to expand this road that we've wanted to expand for 15 years. and so they get their rubber stamp and they do what they do, and suddenly we have these huge cost overruns, which, if you look at it as a roads project that happens to have a BRT, it's kind of par for the course as far as costs
right away
are concerned.
expansion has unknowns.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's, again, I don't want to inherently say that a BRT system is bad. Yes, there are better alternatives. Yes. So I can't just outright say, but this is how they placate people like me, and I know that.
And our listeners know that.
The thing about OGX that really irks me the most is that the taxpayer, i.e. us, is paying a lot more for a lot less. Like, as much as I like to rag on UVX, yada, 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 it should have been a tracks line, yada, 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 this, that, it's as slow as the S line, blah, blah, blah. It's a good system. It gets a lot of ridership. It's mostly dedicated lanes outside of some very poorly designed sections. It's quite fast. It's a good system. But OGX is not that. It's not mostly dedicated. It's mostly just a bus with fancy stops. And
It's just an out and back, like you said, from Ogden to Weber State.
Yeah.
And that just frustrates me because we know how to. I mean, I would prefer a rail line, yeah. But if we're going to be building BRT, we know how to build a good one.
Mm-hmm.
We've built a good one, and then we just chose not to.
Heck, we know how to plan a bloody regular bus route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's ultimately the problem, right? Is that these projects, with all of their costs and all of their price tags, only make transit less palatable to the average person, which is unfair to the process, right?
And speaking of road expansion, to sort of move us on
Yes.
to the next topic, UDOT wants to widen I-15 in Davis and Salt Lake counties.
From Salt Lake to Farmington.
From
Mhm.
Salt Lake to Farmington.
Because just one more lane, bro.
One more lane, bro.
Well, in this case, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more lanes, which
But one of-
obviously is different.
But two of them go foop, 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 and
Yeah,
they swap.
yeah, two of them
It's pretty
switch
cool. They go
directions.
swoop, swoop, swoop.
Yeah, we've
Depending on
solved
the time of day.
traffic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of those?
Yeah.
They
Like
wanna
the
do,
flex
They want
lane?
to do
Yeah.
a suicide lane.
I
wanna
hate, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Basically, it's going to be an express lane from Farmington to Salt Lake. It'll barf you out on like 4 South is the idea, or
Jeez.
at least initially.
Yes.
But it's like you are just on that corridor and you are just slaloming all the way down. Don't hope everything goes well for you.
Because if someone crashes, you can't get off.
Like let's say an oil tanker just.
Well, this always happens with freeways. If someone crashes, you can't get off. Like if the train, somebody
Well,
crashes
this
into
is-
the train, you can just walk off and they'll get you on a
This
bus.
is more like
But even
there would be,
extra
like,
can't
two
get off.
access points
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
Farmington and Salt Lake City.
This sounds exceptionally safe.
And-
Yeah. So if there
and
is
you
a-
change directions.
Yeah.
too.
See, that's smart.
Halfway, they're just like, "Is the system clear? Probably." No, I'm sure there's systems in place, but yeah,
Unlikely. Unbloody likely.
and no one is going to screw up on that either and
No.
accidentally get on the road the
Never.
wrong way.
Well,
Yeah,
in my professional opinion, before we get on to the widening, I think between the Spaghetti Bowl, where I-80 and the 21st South Expressway meet I-15, and I don't know, somewhere up by up north where they like join up 215 and 15, we should just blow up I-15. If
I
you
mean-
want to go north-south, you can take I-15 over to 215,
Yeah.
back over to I-15.
Hop on over, or
it
you
is
get-
a very small detour, and they've got big fancy interchanges. You don't have to
well,
slow down.
and I mean, it's. I know you guys have talked about ripping up freeways in previous episodes,
recently.
and yeah, not terribly long ago, and it is becoming a trend, and it's becoming a trend for a reason, right?
Not in Utah,
Not
apparently.
in Utah. No, I mean
we're
obviously
we're
going the
building new
opposite direction.
freeways here.
And as you guys pointed out in that episode, like really at most you should have a total of 6 lanes of highway, at most, in order to move some people around and goods around. But I mean the devastation to our urban core that I-15 has had. I grew up in Rose Park.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
born and
so
raised.
you get the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I mean, literally since I was born there, and I lived there, until I became an adult. But the simple fact of the reality is that if you live on the west side of the freeway, there is a very real physical difference between those two
There
communities.
is a literal
There
concrete
is a
wall.
literal physical wall.
and also
there-
the occasional steel one when
Yeah,
Union
that's
Pacific's
true,
doing
too.
yard moves.
That's true. But more importantly, there's a very psychological wall there.
It's
That-
the pores.
It is the pools on the other side of the freeway.
Ooh.
Oh no!
So we drive up on the freeway. We look down upon the
Look at them off to the
pores.
side. We might give them a sound barrier if we're nice.
Don't go to the west side.
But-
You'll get mugged.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if we were, and obviously when we talk about initial freeway construction, like back in the 50s and 60s, it was very intentional that happened.
I can see all the like boxed out parts that
Yeah.
go out on the west side.
You can absolutely see it, and it's absolutely true. So I would love to rip that up. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. As you point out, UDOT is going the opposite direction, starting at 4 South,
Yeah.
all the way up to Farmington, the Highway 89 interchange.
So what they want to do, they put 2 options on the table, and there's no do nothing and just let it.
Well,
let
it's
it
Utah.
be
They never
option.
do the no build alternative. That's just because they have to.
Right. So option A is 226 feet wide with a total of 14 lanes. This is the one that will just have like regular HOV lanes. They're
So
calling
their
them
options
hot
are-
lanes now because high occupancy traffic
Yeah.
sounds better.
Oh.
It sounds cool. It's definitely not a backronym.
Why isn't this a
But-
busway in the middle?
Because
reasons.
Aren't the two options just flip flop or no flip flop?
basically. But if we're gonna build one, I kind of want to see the flip flop. So some people have a massive.
I want to
wreck
see it
eventually.
break.
It is not going to go well. Have you met Utah drivers?
Have you met any drivers?
Yeah,
All
but
drivers are
especially
bad
Utah
drivers.
drivers.
And so, these are the two options they've given. Unfortunately, impacts on businesses and homes surrounding the project are not yet known.
Kaboom!
But
No idea.
I
Pew,
can,
pew,
I can
pickaxe,
tell you
kaboom.
that folks living nearby are concerned. There have been a couple of
That their house
community
might get
meetings about
deleted?
it so far, which I was unfortunately able to make it to. I definitely would have gone because, fun fact, I live next to several freeways as well, and their traffic will be amplified by system effect, and I get to
Great.
breathe that in.
Kaboom!
But I know a lot of people are concerned. I mean, there was even a Trib article about it of, West Side residents expressing their concerns. And the reason they're doing this is allegedly
To fix
because
traffic?
in 2050 they think that there's going to be a certain amount of traffic and
They want to
fix
try and
that
outbuild
before.
that ahead of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, no. So I think it says it gets down to 30 miles an hour during peak or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I would simply take the train
Yeah,
to
if we-
79.
Yeah, no. So but that's the thing, right? So I stand corrected. If we don't do anything, according to UDOT, by 2050, it'll be 20 miles an hour during peak times, as opposed to the existing 60 miles an hour, which I question, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really
I've been on that, but okay, fine. And then 16 miles an hour. What is that?
That's the northbound.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, northbound versus southbound peak times, right? And so that's the argument that they're using is we must maintain 60 miles an hour.
Well, this is the classic level of service-based planning, where in order to keep the cars moving as fast as you want and not having too many too close together, because then they start playing bumper cars,
Right.
you make the road more bigger and more wider and more of them to
You
try
make
and
it more
outbuild
gooder, yeah.
instead of decreasing the amount of cars such that they can free flow and not play bumper cars.
20 minutes during AM peak. They're saying that currently it takes 20 minutes to drive from Farmington to 4th South during AM peak.
No, it does not.
I have driven here. It takes me like
It takes me 15 from
25
Bountiful to 4 South. Easy.
25 minutes during like off-peak
Yeah.
periods when I'm driving back from Boise like 2
And
days after
you get to
a
watch
holiday.
all the traffic on Front Runner
Right.
too.
So I question their...
I question their numbers too, but more specifically the point, you're absolutely right. Like this is absolutely a build-out option as opposed to an alternatives option. And obviously we know what the alternative is. Say it with me. Double track
on
front
electrified
runner.
front,
Yeah, I mean that's and it's not going to solve everything. It's not going to get every car off the road. So here's a novel concept. Let's continue to expand transit so that people have a choice. That's really the problem here. Is people do not have a choice. Take a data like today. Terrible snowstorm. The roads were not great, but people were forced to drive today.
And a small number of them, like myself, who specifically chose a place to live based on transit access and also this dumbass housing market,
There's that.
had the pleasure of just screwing around on tracks all day.
Exactly.
But
I mean,
we don't have enough system for everybody
My
to
travel
enjoy
was not
that.
affected today.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, though, is fundamentally we are preventing choice in transit when we continue to expand I-15 and other roads in the state of Utah because we are locking communities in to forcing them to have cars to get around because we all know that cycle. Well, we have to have a car to get around, so we have to expand the road. Well, now I need to have a car to get around, so we have to expand. And it just goes ad nauseum. And we are fundamentally depriving people of the choice of transit, especially on days like today, where taking front runner, taking tracks may not be an option for a lot of people, practically speaking. And in my mind, that's not fair. That is not fair to deny the citizens of the state of Utah funds for transit when we deny those funds, but we're more than happy to continue expanding roads and locking people in.
Let's talk about the Farmington Front Runner Station. Have you ever been to that one
yes.
or looked at the map?
Oh, I know that one well.
Yeah, Farmington Front Runner Station is half a mile from the famed Lagoon Amusement Park. Straight line, but there are several large concrete walls in the way, so you could either spend half the day walking there or take the UCA shuttle
You
bus.
actually cannot walk over.
You can't walk north, but you can go around
You can go
south.
all the
and
way
they've got
down
this
and up and around. That's true.
weird underpass.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
we
a
tried
couple
to
miles.
walk over the north
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, we did
time.
try that.
Don't
The
do
sidewalk
that.
just
It's a-
ended
yeah,
in
it
the
just
middle.
stops.
There wasn't even like a sign earlier
Nope.
to warn us off.
Hey, by the way, there's no sidewalk. Have fun in the gutter.
Yeah,
So-
we should have gone through the interchange just for giggles.
And then you have one less host, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
weren't you pitching the gondola to Lagoon?
Oh, the roller coaster Lagoon. Like
There
running over the freeway.
There we go.
That's a way to encourage ridership.
There we go. And it's a cog system.
Yeah.
It's a cog system to get it
Cog
going.
train.
There
Yep.
we go.
Yep.
Like
yep.
that.
No, I mean, yeah, the front runner.
But I think this is, aside from just like the amount of service and travel times available in Frontrunner, this is a great example of no choice in that UDOT has physically built concrete walls in your way to prevent you from having a choice. Even if you are going to go out of your way to, like, I don't know, buy an e-bike and ride Frontrunner even though it takes too long and do this and do that and do this.
Yeah. The citizens of Farmington, in this case, are effectively prevented from practical access to transit. I mean, yes, there is a park and ride there of sorts.
What's the point?
But yeah, exactly. What is the point? If I'm already going to get in my car, I'm already going to get in my car.
Drive all the way there.
Yeah. And again, that's one of my big frustrations with this I-15 expansion. UTRU is actually starting to work with other organizations to see if we can't start to build a coalition to address these concerns. Because they are legitimate concerns. From our standpoint, yes, it is transit. From others, it's housing advocacy. From others, it's the environment.
I mean, just the amount of asthma that people living in the sort of neighborhoods that will be affected by this are already getting is significant. I don't want them to be getting more asthma than that.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't get asthma if UDOT blows up your house and you have to move somewhere else.
Got you there.
Yeah, just
Checkmate.
move to Springville.
Yeah.
That's the last affordable place in the Washington.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is when UDOT is more, and we don't even know how much this project is going to cost. They say 1.6 billion. That's what they're saying. And even if we take that at face value, okay, fine. You are more than willing to drop $1.6 billion on this project. It's approximately 18 miles of roadway. Okay, you want to do that. Why is that okay? But spending $1 billion on transit? Could you imagine what $1 billion, $1.6 billion on transit expansion in the
You
state
could
of
double
Utah?
track and electrify the entire existing Frontrunner state
No,
You could
system.
do that. You could run.
Slightly short, maybe, but
You could run one from Tooele to Park City, or at least get a good
you
chunk of
need
it
some
taken
extra
care of.
money for that.
No,
You could get a good chunk of that done.
Yeah.
We could phase it in. I don't care.
Yeah.
But we're,
what I said on Twitter the other day was, for the cost of number one, close parentheses, UDOT freeway extension, we could do the Rio Grande plan, Northwest tracks, and build a whole new blue line and still have some change left over.
Yeah.
You did change for a bus up to Logan.
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
UDOT is
Right.
not actually substantially improving anything about the freeway because it'll just fill up.
Yeah.
But these transit changes are like literal game changers in terms of service, speed, frequency, quality, and coverage.
Absolutely. And we always live, and one of the sneaky things that this kind of does is it makes us think of just $1.6 billion. When in actuality, it's $1.6 billion for this project.
$1.6 billion this year.
Yeah, it's $4 billion for what happened in Utah County. It was, I want to say, $900 million for Highway 89 through Davis County.
Track sign up Highway 89, Blue Line
We
extension.
should have done that.
Next two, sorry.
But that's the thing is UDOT gets this almost pass of like, well, there's this project for this money and this project for this money, and mentally we separate that. But when we say, what if we had took that, even half of that money over the past 10 years and invested that in transit?
And spent it on even like exclusively electric trains,
Even
neglecting the more cost-effective methods like building a BRT without doing a road expansion, for example, which is, I think, illegal or something.
It seems like it should be. It feels like it should be.
Well, yeah. And the funny thing that you mention a tracks line up Highway 89 is that was actually supposed to be a part of the original tracks system, and it just
It was supposed to
never
run
happened.
all the way through Davis County. Yeah, I mean that was
Which would have been brilliant.
would have been great. I would have loved it.
It would have made your life a lot easier, I assume.
You know, it would absolutely. But I mean, that's the thing is all of these projects, the freeways expansions, the BRTs or the roadway construction projects hidden as BRTs, all of these things are basically hidden costs that most people are just okay with. They're like, oh, okay, well, $1.6 billion, whatever. But that's one of the things that U-True really does want to focus on is changing that conversation and talking about the fact that we are denying Utahns a choice in getting around.
What pains me is that all of this UDOT capital money is just like a small scoop in the bucket compared to the tens of billions of dollars of private investment in cars in the state of Utah.
Oh, absolutely.
Every year, tens of billions
Absolutely.
of dollars.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
Which
even-
we can completely ignore, apparently.
Apparently we can. And yeah, cars are expensive,
Yeah.
but it's freedom.
I mean, trains are expensive too, but you can fit like 500 people on one.
Yeah, but it's freedom. It's not that we want to get rid of cars. We want to make it so that you don't need a car. If you still want one, get one.
Options.
But give people options. That's what people deserve is the options of getting around. On a cruddy day like today when the weather is awful, yeah, front runner service goes up. More people get on. I see it myself every day. Well, every day that there's a cruddy snow day.
yeah.
And imagine if we gave more people more options. That's less cars on the freeway, less of a chance of them slamming into the side of the road, less of a chance that an ambulance has to get called, less of a chance that a cop has to get called. That they
And
can
if
provide better
ambulance
service.
does get called, then it won't get clogged up on
Yeah.
like 4 South, which doesn't even have a shoulder.
Yeah. And it just makes sense once you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Give Utahns a choice, not just more roads.
So speaking of choices, service cuts.
We're moving on to something else first, Kyle.
Oh, what did Governor Cox
Governor
do?
Caillou.
Is that what-
Sorry,
oh,
Governor
sorry.
Cox, our wonderful supreme leader of the state of Utah, has proposed that we do a free fare year because we've done free fare February. That was paid for by primarily the city of Salt Lake City and Wasatch Front Development Council
And
agency.
random
Wasatch
private
Front Regional
businesses.
Council, yes.
Yes.
And businesses that have a lot of money kind of tied up in bus passes and transit passes.
That's
Yeah.
right. So he wants to give UTA $24.5 million for free fare 2024.
Will that actually cover it for a year?
No.
How much more do we need?
6-7 million.
Oh, that's not too bad.
It's a start.
Because our fare box recovery is only
So,
like 10%.
It's free fare August.
Free fare 2024.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, as
Oh,
it stands
oh,
right
free
now,
fare.
free fare August.
Yeah. So I know that my thoughts on free fare have changed lately, as I've discussed with Kyle. But I do want to know sort of U-True's position on this.
And that is a fair question. So I didn't even mean to do that. I hate myself for that one. As a general statement, U-True's stance is that we want transit to be affordable. That's one of our tenets. Well,
Good politician.
it is a
Steve
good
there.
politician. No, but I mean, our goal is that we make transportation and transit affordable to the riders and for the system. This obviously is a way to make it affordable to the average rider.
Which I would say it is currently.
I would as well.
They've got tons of low-income discounts,
They do.
and even if you're paying full price, it's only like $1,000 a year.
No, it's true. As a general statement, we support the idea of free fare as an option. That being said, and there's always a that being said, we need to keep in mind that the system is underfunded, first of all, and that really we need to focus on making sure that we get service levels up to a level that people want to ride and are able to.
That's a funny concept.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, though, we're talking not even just pre-pandemic levels, but better than that.
Improving the system.
Improving the system.
I thought ridership just grew on trees and walked onto the bus.
We all hope it does, but unfortunately, no.
I mean,
right?
it does when you build 501s at your train stations, but apparently we're not even doing that
Oh,
anymore.
God.
But with that in mind, UTA has, at its very base level, it has a driver shortage right now. right? It cannot even get the routes it needs, or it can't even get people to drive the buses on routes that it used to have. This isn't, oh, we've looked at the numbers and it's better to run this route this way, or we've looked at the numbers, this isn't an effective route. It is, these are good routes, but we have literally no one to drive them. And therefore, we have to either cut service entirely or reduce service from 15 to 30, 30 to 60, whatever. And so, you asked me the question, what is your true stance? We're not going to say no. We will say yes, but let's also talk about the real issues that are affecting the system. We need money to actually fund the system, not only to where it was pre-pandemic, not only so that we can actually have bus drivers and train conductors and the maintenance people in order to handle that, and the train hosts. Not only do we need that, but we need the money that the system will function.
And the more fair money we can get that stacks on top of like our fixed sales tax money.
Right. Well, and frankly, it's time to have a legitimate discussion about the current funding system of the counties that use the system pay in through tax dollars from the sales tax is not adequate. The state of Utah, as I said before, is more than happy to throw money at expanding a road in southern Utah that maybe 20 people will use in a day. They're more than happy to do that. But for some reason, they have a mental block when we say, hey, can we give
operations funding to UTA?
Long-term day-to-day operations. And I wouldn't just say UTA. I would say all the systems in the state of Utah.
Can we pay off UTA's old capital
The reason I say UTA is because, first of all, it's
the big kahuna.
99% of the ridership in Utah.
It's the big kahuna. But,
and second of all, Connor would like to see more UTA throughout the rest of the state.
Of course.
I am of the opinion that we should integrate and after the model of New Jersey Transit.
Reunification.
Reunification.
Anyway.
No, that's fine. But it's this idea that, and I think I said this on the show the last time I was here. Legislatures love red ribbon cutting things.
Yeah.
They do not love day-to-day operations. That is boring. That is not sexy.
If they want to cut the ribbon on running 5 extra trains an hour through central downtown.
Let them.
They can if they want.
They can if they want to. But
they could drive a train through a ribbon for all I
care.
care.
I'd go for
that's
that.
actually
like
cool.
that.
That's a good idea. Yeah. But so when Governor Cox proposes this idea of free transit, like I said, UTA is not, or UTRU is not going to say no. But we need to make sure that isn't the end of the conversation. We need to make sure that is the start of the conversation. And we want people to use the system. And if free fare is a way to achieve that, great, fantastic. But coupled with that is the discussion of it could be better. We can do more. We're obviously, if we're willing to do free fare, we're obviously willing to have a conversation about transit funding in the state of Utah as a statewide funding source. Not local counties that happen to use it, as a statewide system. A citizen in St. George is going to be paying for free fare in Salt Lake. And we have no problem with that when it's a road. And if Governor Cox is able to go through with this plan, obviously it's the governor's budget, it's not the legislature, so he doesn't actually have a say in it.
Right.
But he is starting the conversation. And so if we can start the conversation of getting people in St. George used to paying for Salt Lake City transit, just as Salt Lake City has been used to paying for St. George expansion and road projects, then we can start to talk about actually funding UTA and the other systems based off of proportion, transportation, blah, blah, blah.
Yada, yada.
The actuaries can figure out the numbers on that. But if we can actually have this conversation going, if we can actually talk about transit as that public good that I was talking about before, I say go for it. Let's start the conversation.
Okay, and so continuing on to what you were saying about starting the conversation, we're actually having something of I don't want to say it, but a crisis at UTA at the moment. So Salt Lake Business Unit, which operates, I believe, Meadowbrook and Central Garages, which are the two, bus garages that run all the bus routes in Salt Lake County, and is short 80 drivers, and the situation's even worse up in the Ogden Business Unit, which drives the Weber County and the Lila Davis County buses as well. And this has resulted in cuts. So this change day, which was just a couple days ago, or today's Tuesday, right?
Today's Tuesday.
Yeah,
2 days ago.
2
At
days
the time
ago.
of recording.
Actually,
At the time of recording, 2 days ago.
So, this most recent change day, we've had service temporarily suspended on the 650, the 901, the 953. We have service reductions on the 39, the 201, the 218, the 455, the 470, the 603, the 612, the 625, the 640, the 645, the 972, and the 994.
I missed that. Could you do it again, please?
Ogden got completely shafted.
But
Ogden
as
got
you can see
screwed.
from all those 6 numbers, Weber County ain't doing so great at the moment.
It's not. And yeah, to call it a crisis almost is an understatement. So I had the opportunity to speak with the head of the the drivers union for ATU. Yes, I had the opportunity to speak with him the other day, and great conversation. But one of the biggest things is that, and one of the biggest frustrations is they saw this coming.
Understandable, pretty predictable. We've seen the rest of the economy.
Yeah, they saw this coming, and they saw this even before the pandemic.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and so they kind of got a reprieve on that because everything kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
But now it's catching up with us. And not knowing the specifics, it is one of those issues where UTA, for whatever reason, has failed to address one of its fundamental needs.
Which is drivers.
Because if you don't have a driver, guess what? You don't have a bus route, as demonstrated by all of those numbers you just rambled off.
And I can get into specifics because
you're more than,
I am, as is well known to friends of the podcast, an employee at UTA, and so I have, first of all, an inside look, and second of all, the people I work with on a daily basis when I go to work are very daily and presently cognizant of the issues that are causing issues with maintaining bus drivers.
The podcast bone is connected to the grapevine bone.
Yes, the grapevine bone. And, a lot of people want to say, like, it's pay, yada, yada, yada. And that is, of course, an element. And ATU and UTA are actually actively working in contract negotiations right now, working on getting a pay raise, hopefully maybe up to $24 starting pay, and et cetera, which would be great. But the real issue with why we have trouble keeping operators is something called the extra board. Now, if you're not familiar with the extra board, be thankful because it is brutal. Generally, for the first 1 to 5 years of a new bus operator's span at UTA, they're put on what is called the extra board. And the extra board is you fill in whatever no one else is doing.
For 1 to 5 years.
1 to 5 years.
That's a long time.
That is a long time.
And the great thing about this is you don't even, know multiple days in advance. You normally know 1 day in advance. You call the night before at 5 o'clock to get off the phone what you're doing the next day. You could be coming in at 6 a.m., you could be coming in at 3 in the afternoon because you only get to set a 14-hour window in which they're allowed to work you as much as they like.
That's horrid.
Jeez.
And so my friend Eleanor, who is a new bus driver at UTA, shout out to you, is experiencing this firsthand because she just got called in tomorrow. She's going to be doing 10 hours and 30 minutes of bus driving. And it is her 3rd day working at UTA.
Isn't that
as a licensed employee?
Isn't that pushing right up against the CDL limits?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so so here's the fun side note of that, right? Being 3rd day on the job, I'm almost certain that she does not know her route.
Yeah.
Just doesn't, and I don't begrudge her for that.
You gotta
No,
she doesn't know that route. But let's talk about not only the effects of morale on drivers when that sort of event happens. Let's talk about the perception of what happens when Eleanor, unfortunately, misses a stop or misses a turn, and some poor soul is sitting on the side of the road for an hour because of the headways.
Yeah.
Until the next bus comes around. Suddenly, you've made a rider more upset with the system. You've made a driver more stressed out. And more likely to have to deal with behaviors when they inevitably come around in an hour to pick them up again. It is not a good system.
So low retention is, believe it or not, bad for literally every business.
Literally every business on Earth. And then when you couple it especially with those that are so customer-oriented, so customer-facing, as a transit system is, there's not a whole lot of businesses that literally deal with the customer from 100% start to 100% end. But transit does. And so
Especially bus drivers.
Especially bus drivers.
When you're riding a tracks train, it feels like an inanimate object.
They're kind of in a unit that's just
Yeah,
moving.
and you're also it feels like you kind of have like a deal with the tracks train. Like it
Right.
shows up at this set time, and if you're there by then, you're set.
And I know,
And you don't have
I'll
to
pay
interact with
attention.
the person.
It's been about 20 minutes. I know I should start wrapping my stuff up and get off the train.
And it stops at every single
And it
stop
stops
every time, so you don't really have to worry
But with the
about
bus,
it.
you have to pay attention. You're like, oh, well, no one's on the bus, or the normal person that dings here didn't ding here. Well, I need to know to do that.
And I got to
because
make
it's
sure the
just
bus sees me in the dark.
Yep. And so there are so many ripple effects from the driver shortage, from these sorts of programs, and that it only compounds the problem. It only makes it worse. And so, is it any surprise that UTA is struggling to find and keep drivers? Other transit systems have started to figure this out. Other transit systems across the country are like, oh, well, maybe we actually need to do things to find and keep drivers because the rest of the market has outpaced us. And we need to do something.
Almost like driving a bus is a hard job or something.
Almost. It's an extremely difficult and taxing job. And I don't think a lot of people understand how difficult it truly is.
It's just a 40-foot bus. Just hit gas, right?
It's just a 40-foot bus with upwards of 40 souls in the back with crazy people all around you.
Oh my goodness, the ski bus drivers going down the canyon at like 30 or 40 miles an hour with 90 people in their 40-foot metal tube.
Yeah.
Barely being able to negotiate turns.
Absolutely. And so,
So I had a bus driver the other day on the 17. He was trying to make the horrid corner, which is 15th East and
Oh goodness.
17th.
I'm amused
Oh,
that
it is 17th.
I'm
Yeah,
amused
it is
that they even
17th.
try to run the bus on 15th East.
That turn,
a hell
I
of a
don't know
turn.
how they even do it. Honestly, he got stuck and he was like, "Oh my!"
Yeah.
You could tell he was stressed.
Yeah,
about it.
because he's
And
got time to make. That's an hour route.
yeah.
It
And-
took about 5 minutes to get around that corner.
yeah, to navigate that
I
bad
felt
boy.
so bad for him.
But on the flip side, let's talk about a good driver. So, unfortunately, during change day this past go around, I lost my bus driver that I normally had.
Aww.
I know, it sucked, but it was a flex route because it's down in Draper.
Of course it is.
Of course it was. It was the 514.
And then you get to know the drivers because they're so infrequent and
yeah.
so short.
But that driver was awesome. And he was like, where do you work? Oh, I work here. Oh, great. I'm going to not actually stop at the stop. I'm going to stop at the light so that you can get out and cross safely.
It is a flex bus.
It is a
That's
flex bus.
normal thing
That
they
is
do.
allowable to do, right? But even if it's just those little things, those little positive interactions, just as those negative interactions have a very real effect, those positive ones too do too. And if UTA can start to recognize the sheer value that good drivers provide, I think that they would start to have a different conversation, because to them, I honestly get the impression that it's numbers on a spreadsheet, and it's, we need to have X amount of people on this route, we need X amount here, and if we don't have enough, then okay, which routes do we cut? And that's their prerogative. They're running a massive system, but, well, it's not massive on national levels, but you know what I mean.
It's massive
It is
on the west
on the west coast, or on the west side of the Mississippi. It's relatively large. So, I understand that it's numbers on a spreadsheet, but they need to realize that these are human beings interacting with human beings daily for 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes at a time, and that they are the front line. They are the face of UTA, and if they don't treat them well, they're not going to treat riders well. And if they're not treating riders well, you have fewer riders. If you have fewer riders, you have an even harder time getting people to use the system going forward.
And even going back to the scheduling thing, like I'm sure anybody who's worked food service can attest to, you get your schedule for the week, you go, some days are just a complete grind, and you're just barely doing the basic greetings to all your customers, but the job's still getting done. But these bus drivers are having to deal with not even knowing when they're going to be working until it's too late to make other plans, which is kind of the same issue that the railroad workers have been running into too.
Days off,
Which and all of those things are bad enough. And then you add the extra insult of not paying them well enough. And is it any wonder that we're having to do these route cuts and these route reductions? It's not that difficult to figure out. And so to bring it all back, yes, we want free fare, But we want a system that actually functions. And the state needs to view UTA and other transit agencies as the public resource they are.
So the state needs to give UTA, enough money to improve service in terms of you need to pay for operators and buses. And UTA internally needs to get their crap together with actually having employees.
Yes. It's not that hard. You just have to be willing to do it.
Yeah.
If this were Delta. No, I'm serious. If this were Delta famously will cut and cut and cut and cut and cut.
Yeah.
Of course they do. But they're never going to cut to the point where it sacrifices the ability to get a plane from one place to another.
Hi, your flight's canceled because an operator quit because we've been overworking them for the past 4 months.
Yeah, they're never going to reach that point, right? On a wide scale, right?
You've seen how much pilots get paid.
Yeah, well, but Delta has a vested interest in getting that airplane from Salt Lake to wherever, right? So they may, cut and do all these things, but they're never going to cut to the point where they're like, oh, I guess we can't do this route anymore. Sorry. No, Delta wants to make money. But for some reason, it's because UTA doesn't rely on a profit. And so they just go, oh, well. And
sorry.
That's what happens.
We tried.
We tried super hard by not doing a whole lot. But that's the way that if UTA were truly being honest, it should be approaching this from a business standpoint. I get their interest in not paying drivers any more than they have to. But if it's coming at the expense of not even allowing routes to happen anymore, you're not doing your job. UTA is not doing their job on this one. Plain and simple. They need to figure it out. They need to come to an agreement with the drivers. And they need to do it 2 years ago.
Do I detect a hint of frustration there?
Not a hint. It is unacceptable. I understand canceling a route because no one is taking it. Okay, fine.
If you have to.
If you have to. I don't think you should, but if you have to.
You could make the route better so people actually want to take it.
But this is such an unforced error. This is an absolutely preventable problem that UTA went, oh, the pandemic happened, so we don't need to worry about it. Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Now
people are coming back. Yeah, and it was... Look, I mean, we all remember 2020, and we all thought it was the end of the world, and that's fine. But the practical reality is we knew at some point we would start to build back. We didn't know if it would be now or in another 2 years, but we knew it was going to happen. And yet, UTA mostly sat on their laurels. And they just said, and they are forced to now be playing catch-up, even back late, really the start of this year, when we started to see that maybe things will get back to reasonable levels. We're already at 70% of pre-pandemic, somewhere around there. I haven't seen the most recent numbers.
We hit it in September.
September always the most.
Which is impressive for the lack of effort.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. We hit 70% with all these cuts that have been taking place. Imagine where we'd be at if we actually had service at the same levels.
Or improved it.
God forbid. Or improved it. So yeah, if you say I pick up a sense of frustration with that, it's absolutely true. UTA did not do their job on this one.
Yeah.
And it's costing them, it's costing the riders, it's reducing morale, which only causes that problem to go worse. UTA is in the wrong on this one. They need to fix the problem, and they need to fix it 2 years ago.
Excellent. And with that, I know that you said to us before the episode started that UTRU has, or at least is developing, kind of a vision for what y'all think,
yes.
Or I guess Wall think, since we're...
I'll talk about that, too.
So you're developing something, I think you said, called Transit Imagine.
Transit Imagine,
Having
yes.
a vision, because UTA apparently can't.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, they don't. There is no... I have seen the system-wide plan for 2050, and I am deeply unimpressed by its lack of scope and its lack of vision.
Let me guess. Improved bus stops, some more BRT projects, and maybe one rail extension.
Well, it used to be we were going to extend, tracks into the entirety of Utah County and have 4 lanes there, but we're not going to do that anymore. We're gonna maybe double track front runner someday, and we'll think about using hydrogen trains instead of...
Yeah.
I want to see the ambition that was Frontlines. We made this 2040 plan. We're doing it tomorrow.
Yeah. So Transit Imagined, right? It is an initiative that we are starting up in the new year, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. Don't expect anything right off the bat. But the long and the short of it is we want to take a true deep dive into what it looks like if we had a system that, A, everyone had at less than a quarter of a mile from a bus stop, at bare minimum. Everyone in the Wasatch Front.
So all 2.538 million people.
Correct.
Okay, so in Hooper and in Tooele.
Correct.
All right.
Everyone.
Or like half mile from a rail stop sort of thing too.
Yes. Well, so quarter mile from a bus stop, half mile from a rail stop.
Standard.
Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, what does that look like? Second of all,
Crap ton of buses.
Second of all, at maximum 15-minute headways during peak hours. That's the worst. Is 15-minute headways during peak hours.
And 30-minute
30-minute off peak.
Instead of the best headways we offer anywhere except for UVX.
Yes. 30-minute headways during off-peak hours, 45 during like dead, relatively late at night service. That's
overnight service, crazy.
24/7, 365 service.
Because
Sundays?
24/7, 365
You couldn't
service.
do that in Utah County. It would cause the devil to erupt.
We couldn't run airport to university overnight while they're doing freight on such a corridor.
Do something like that. 24/7, 365. And then ideally, no more than 3 transfers. From anywhere to anywhere.
So, for
Yeah,
example,
fair.
if you're going from, I don't know, let's use Hooper again. Hooper to Eagle Mountain, that's no more than 3 transfers.
No more than 3 transfers.
Get on a bus from Hooper to regional rail or regional bus, and then...
I mean, that's really what it is bus to regional route to bus to your final destination. That's really what it is.
And then we're hedging with an extra transfer for some, like, weird corner cases.
I mean, sure, but as a general statement, no more than 3 transfers to get to your location. That is the vision. That is the transit imagined. And we want to start looking at what does that actually mean.
I would love to see the service map for this.
I mean,
You can see my crayon.
Yeah, I mean, it's blue. Like, it is just blue everywhere.
You're going to have to build some new underpasses under the freeways out on the west side to be able to actually run
I mean,
those routes.
it's not easy. And, you know, we it's not easy and it's not cheap. But what U-True wants to really start looking at is providing this vision to communities and say, this is what you could have if you had the political will to make it so. And so what we want to do is present a plan to people and show them what that looks like and imagine what that would actually mean for your day-to-day activities. If you could reliably depend on a bus to show up at minimum every 15 minutes during peak hours, minimum. If you could,
more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, obviously we want more and better, but we want to at least be somewhat realistic here. And what does that mean to your life? How does that affect your life either directly because you are now able to use transit or indirectly because there are fewer cars on the road and it is easier to get around for whatever reason for what you're doing? So that's the part 1. Part 2 is we want to have citizen advocacy surrounding that. So going into those communities, talking about how you would actually fight for these plans. Who do you talk to? When do you talk about it? What do you say when you talk to this person? We want to provide that citizen advocacy so that people have a plan and know who to talk to make it a reality. And the third thing that we want to do is have localized chapters to make sure that we are constantly staying on top of these issues. Which, by the by, I want to, in my executive director powers, officially grant unto thee temporary status, because it has to be approved by our board. Temporary status as our inaugural chapter, our first chapter amongst U-True.
And with that, I would like to announce as the interim president of that chapter. If you go to the University of Utah, because we know you are out there, you are like 1/3 of our listener base. We know you're out there. If you go to the University of Utah, please hit us up and we will get you in here. We will force you to go. Westminster too.
Nice.
We're because we share almost all the same transportation.
And I don't know, like Ensign College or whatever.
If you're in Salt Lake City,
Hey,
and you're going to college.
If you use transit in and you go to college,
In Salt Lake City, yeah. Come to us. We're gonna do a whole bunch of stuff, and it's gonna be really great and really annoying to university staff. So come join us.
Yes.
We're gonna
advocate for skateboard racks.
Yeah, skateboard racks. That is yeah.
Listen,
Half hour on the 17th.
There you go.
Ooh.
And that's the thing. Here's the thing, though. As a chapter, and for others listening that are interested in starting a chapter, for the most part, we give you that leeway. What does your area need? What does your community need?
We have a list. It's several slides long.
That's fine.
Well, we do have a list.
That's fine, right? As long as it helps the core values of UTRU, basically making transit more gooder. If it meets those goals, we will absolutely support you in as many ways as we possibly can. So you guys, for example, are getting a website. You can set up your Twitters, and we will provide names of other people in the area that are interested. And we will work with chapters to make sure that you guys are successful. We will have ideas of things that we would propose, for example, like bus stop censuses.
Yeah, that was actually something I was thinking about the other day.
Bus stop censuses. And that goes beyond just like, there's a stop here. It's like, well, is there shade? Is it asphalt or is it grass? Is there a bench? Is it covered?
Oh my goodness.
Let's talk to the people that are using this bus stop and see what they think.
OpenStreetMap, which is like crowdsourced map data thing, has like a answer the questions app you can do. And if you click on a bus stop, it's like, is there a trash can? Is there a shelter? Is there a bench?
Yeah.
Is there a trash can? Is there a shelter? Is there a bench?
There you go.
It's depressing every time on most of them.
Because the answer is almost inevitably no. So that's what UTRU is building towards, is this transit imagined, going into communities and building chapters to fight for those things.
And buying car repellent paint and illegally putting it on roads.
So that is what we are shooting for. Is it ambitious? You're damn right it is. But
that's the point.
That is absolutely the point. Because UDOT, for really 80 years, has been dictating what transit looks like in the state of Utah. And they've been able to have their big ideas, and a lot of them have come true. Now is the time was 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. But the second best time is right now. And we need to fight for these things, because if we don't, no one will, and it's just going to get worse for everyone.
Excellent.
I'm sold.
That's a great way to end the episode, and we will obviously be looking forward to working with you and seeing what y'all come up with for your Transit Imagine thing. So thanks for coming on, Chris.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure to have you. I'm sure we will have you numerous future times.
I'm always happy to talk into a microphone. It's never a problem.
So that's the episode for today. If you are listening on YouTube, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps boost engagement and get us seen by more people.
Oh, did we remember to say our one or two minor wrong things in this episode so people can yell at us in the comments?
And if you're going to go listen to the REM episode after this, yes, I am aware that réseau is network and not railway. Thank you. Only 10 of you have commented that. And then if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, or anything else, remember to follow and give a rating. That's helpful as well. Our patrons are...
At Frontrunner Double Track 90 mile an hour speed limit tier, Zach Adams, $20. At regular Frontrunner tier...
Hi, guys.
Curtis.
I contribute too.
Yeah, Mike Christensen, who is not here today. We should have him on again.
Yeah, we should.
Phobos $23.90, and for Redline tier?
Yeah, $5 Redline tier. We have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, Jacob Whitecotton, and Robert P. Walsh.
And then at Blue Line tier, $3, we have DJ Will Watkins.
Hi, Will.
Ethan McDonald, John Harrison Gorman, Martin Hecker Martinez, and Ben Busath.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for paying us to do whatever the heck this is. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate you too, Curtis.
I'm happy to do
I'm
it.
paying for my Montreal trip.
All right, now I need to bust it down. Can I put in a real quick plug for utru.org? Please go visit us there.
Yeah, make sure to follow them at RideUtru on Twitter as well.
Yes.
And then
I bet they have more interesting posts than at RideUTA.
they do have more interesting
UTA's
posts
posts are always bummers. They're always like, oh, we have to cancel service.
I have a friend that's trying to work on
Somebody
that.
rammed into the S-line again.
Whereas we're like, here's a cool map.
Yeah, you should. And then also you should follow us on Twitter at the Red redline_pod because there's another Redline podcast and
With no underscore.
They stole my handle. Yeah.
Before us, yeah.
So, and then you should also, this is a new plug, follow my Substack at Tracks Stack, where I will be doing various
Posting
ramblings
of
from my
content.
own brain that are not appropriate for the podcast. So,
That's saying something.
yeah. Okay, well, not appropriate as in like,
That's
as in
after
like
dark.
you can't make it. As in you can't make an episode out of them.
Ah.
So, anyway, yeah, that's all. Bye.